Give you a briefing about the institution before you left.
All I know is it's a mental hospital.
For the criminally insane.
We'll be casting off as soon as you two are ashore. I'd appreciate it if you'd hurry up about it.
Why?
Storm's coming.
Boys seem a little on edge, Mr. McPherson.
Right now, Marshal, we all are. Facility of its kind in the U.S., even the world. We take only the most dangerous, damaged patients, ones no other hospital can manage. And it's all due to Dr. Colley. He's created something really unique here. It's a hospital for people our society knowledge. Class of Johns Hopkins and Harvard.
Those paintings are quite accurate. Used to be the kind of patients we deal with here were shackled and left in their own filth. They were beaten, as if whipping them bloody would drive the psychosis out. We drove screws into their brains. We submerged them in icy water until they lost consciousness or even drowned.
Watch out! Jesus!
He's here. Latest. I can feel him.
Tag, you're it! Ted! Hey! Hey! Teddy! Listen to me. Listen, I don't want to leave here, all right? I mean, why would anybody want to? We hear things here about the outside world, about atolls, about H-bomb tests. You know how a hydrogen bomb works?
With hydrogen.
Oh, that's funny.
Boss!
Other bombs explode, eh? But not the hydrogen bomb. It implodes.
What are you doing? Jesus Christ, Teddy. Jesus.
We've spent a lot of time talking about how natural and sexual selection promote positive changes in the evolution of organisms. But if this is true, why haven't psychiatric disorders been removed from our species? Most agree that a psychiatric disorder is a mental pattern that somehow causes suffering or difficulty in life. So, how could a mental pattern that causes suffering ever be selected for? Two of the pioneers of the Darwinian approach to medicine, American evolutionist Randolph Ness and George Williams, have suggested three ultimate reasons as to why many modern-day humans have psychiatric problems. Genes that predispose people to psychiatric disorders may also have inclusive fitness benefits. Environmental factors that cause psychiatric disorders may be novel when compared to our ancestral past. And some psychiatric disorders may be due to design compromises rather than genetic flaws. The first of these is called the pleiotropy argument. That is, many genes have more than one phenotypic effect. So the negative effects of a gene may be maintained in a gene pool because the positive ones outweigh them. A variation of this argument is that the harmful genes provide a benefit when combined with other genes, but that sometimes such genes are found in bodies that lack the necessary good genes. The second argument, which we connected to phobias in our last lecture, is the time lag argument. It states that humans have developed a lifestyle that did not exist in our ancestral past, which changed too rapidly for selection pressures to have evolved appropriate changes. Finally, the third one is the compromise argument. That is, selection pressures act on inclusive fitness, not on perfecting psychological and physical devices. We considered moment-to-moment internal emotions like fear in the previous lecture. In our discussion of psychopathologies, we are more concerned with pervasive and enduring emotional and mental states like a phobia. But we are still just as interested in the ultimate explanations for why they might have evolved and why they still exist in modern humans. There's a popular perception that ADHD is a disease of the modern world and somehow products of the Western lifestyle. But how sure are we of this hypothesis? What is the scientific consensus on the origin of these disorders? Research strongly indicates that ADHD is associated with a specific variation of an allele for the dopamine D4 receptor. Aside from ADHD, this receptor has been linked to everything from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder to addiction and eating disorders. The allele variant associated with ADHD is called DRD4-7R, or 7R for short. To dispel the myth that ADHD is a Western disorder, researchers have already demonstrated that it exists across the globe, from teenagers in Irvine to nomads in Kenya. But how would we go about testing the hypothesis that ADHD is actually adaptive? If we want an ultimate explanation for its continued existence in post-industrial human populations, we need to look at ADHD through the lens of the three main adaptive arguments: pleiotropy, time lag, and compromise. The pleiotropy argument in its simplest form states that many of our genes are multitasking, producing a number of different traits and functions. Some functions might seem adaptive and totally beneficial to the organism, like the adaptations that allow your heart to beat. But most complex functions, or at least the functions unique to intelligent social animals and humans in particular, are often coupled with harmful effects as well. The p53 gene is a prime example. It suppresses cancer development, but at the same time, it suppresses stem cell growth. This gene hasn't been selected out of the population despite having a clear negative effect. So it's not a stretch to conjecture that the beneficial effect on cancer suppression is compensating for the negative effect on stem cell growth. The time lag argument is similar, but a bit more difficult to study. The time lag argument claims that traits which cause us suffering today, like psychopathologies, were actually beneficial to our ancestors living in the same kind of environment that would select for these traits. In other words, if you leave a hominid group in the jungle to evolve for hundreds of millions of years, you shouldn't be surprised or call them disordered when you quickly move them to a post-industrial civilization and they maintain the same behaviors that evolved in the jungle. The compromise argument is often the most difficult to test, and there aren't many well-proven examples of it in Evo Psych. But one general example is the profound weakness of human muscle compared to the muscle of chimpanzees or gorillas. Being weaker seems to have no major fitness advantages, and being stronger seems to have no major disadvantages. But to sustain the level of strength associated with chimps, the muscle tissue has to have its own adaptations, and these adaptations have other effects. The dense, fast-twitch muscle in a chimpanzee's arm makes it enormously strong relative to its own body mass, but it also means the chimpanzee is incapable of handling and operating all sorts of human tools, which require a high degree of fine motor control. So through this lens, it seems like human weakness is adaptive after all. It's a compromise between the benefits that fine motor control has on the ability to build and use tools, and the disadvantages of not being able to effectively climb trees or defend yourself from a predator with your bare hands. Fortunately, fine motor control enables us to build exactly the kinds of tools we need to climb or defend ourselves, so there's no selective pressure against this kind of muscle compromise. Let's apply our psychoanalytic skills to ADHD. Think of any conditions that might illustrate how ADHD was adaptive in the EEA, the environment of evolutionary adaptation in which we evolved. What about ADHD might have conferred an advantage to our ancestors? What conditions in the modern world might have caused suffering or difficulties for people with ADHD?